Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 41. Ma Lang. After the battle at the Cheng clan residence, the two clans who had been of equal status in Grey Cloud Town set off towards two different destinies. The influence of the Ling clan increased day by day, and they soon possessed enough power to be proclaimed the most dominant clan in Grey Cloud Town. On the other hand, the Cheng clan was trapped in a huge dilemma, forced into a corner. One of the reasons behind it was the stagnation of their economy, but the other more important reason was the fact that their morale had received a heavy blow. Ling Dongxing really did have a good son. This was currently the common understanding amongst the townspeople of Grey Cloud Town. None of them would recall the fact that just 2 months ago, this good son had still been a publicly acclaimed piece of trash and considered a complete joke. The smaller clans in the town began to have frequent dealings with the Ling clan, hoping to become in-laws with the Ling clan. Their target naturally was the previously famous trash, and the currently well-known great genius, Ling Han. Of course, the Shen clan thus became the butt of their jokes. Initially, they had already claimed Ling Han, this excellent potential son-in-law, yet they themselves decided to go back on their own word and reject him. Many wondered how Shen Ziyan was feeling now. Chen Fenglai had just left, but another member of the Stone Wolf sect arrived. His name was Ma Lang. He brought with him a law enforcement team, aggressively interrogating each and every clan, apparently looking for someone. When Ling Han found out, his heart stirred. Could it be that these people had come because of Hang Zan? Very soon, Ma Lang and his group had arrived at the Ling clan residence. The Stone Wolf sect was overlord within the nearest 1,000 miles. Ma Lang was here on behalf of the Stone Wolf sect, so no matter who it was, everyone had to give him enough face. As a result, the high-ranking members of the Ling clan had all gathered at the main hall to receive this special envoy. Ling Han arrived a bit late, and when he entered the main hall with Lu Yutong in tow, it was already fully occupied. He gave a shake of his head to the servant who had been about to greet him before quietly walking over. There was only one person amongst those present who was not a member of the Ling clan, and that was a young man all dressed in white. He seemed to be about 23 or 24 years old and looked very average, yet there was a very powerful aura being exuded from him, full of an extreme self-confidence. The only flaw was the fact that the smile on this guy's face was much too false, inducing disgust in those who saw it. Aside from him, there also stood a line of people dressed entirely in black outside the main hall. All of them were in element gathering tier, but their cultivation levels weren't very high. It appeared that the average cultivation level among them was either 2nd or 3rd layer. None of them seemed to have entered into the 4th layer. 4th layer and 7th layer will forever be a difficult barrier to breach. This young man in white should be Ma Lang then, Ling Han thought, once again turning his eyes towards the former. His cultivation level was much higher than his companions as he had already reached the 6th layer of element gathering tier. Within this area, along with his apparently young age, he definitely would deserve the name of genius. The power of Shen Ziyan, Cheng Xiang and such so-called geniuses was less than nothing when compared with this young man. Ling clan head, within the recent month, has any of your clansmen entered the vicinity of the Balance Mountain? Ma Lang asked. Ling Dongxing's heart skipped a beat. He naturally knew very well that Ling Han had just returned from his trip to Balance Mountain, but now that Ma Lang had so coincidentally asked about it, how could he not be slightly alert? However, no matter how it was, he has had many years of experience in the position of clan head, and so was of course very shrewd. His expression did not change the slightest as he said, as far as I know, none of my clansmen enter the vicinity of the Balance Mountain. Thankfully, Ling Han had both left and returned very secretly. The other members of the clan only knew that Ling Han had disappeared for about a month, but none of them knew where exactly he had gone. Is that so? Ma Lang gave a nod of his head and did not say anything else. He simply sat there with his eyes closed, seemingly deep in thought. Ling Dongxing was well aware of the situation, and hurriedly had someone present a wooden box, and said, "Young Master Ma must have had a difficult journey. Please accept this small token of sincerity from the Ling clan, young Master Ma." Ma Lang finally opened his eyes, and received the wooden box. He made no pretense of modesty and actually opened it on the spot. Inside only lay several thick pieces of paper, but when Ma Lang flipped through the contents, a smile appeared on his face. These pieces of paper were monetary notes. Each piece had a denomination of 500 coins, and there were in total 4 pieces, which equated to 2,000 coins. This was really quite a large sum of money. He had come here on a mission, yet had already intended to seek monetary gifts. Who would not fear and respect him when he had brought with him a law reinforcement team from Stonewolf sect? After all, he was now considered a representative of Stonewolf sect. He had made his rounds around all the minor clans of Grey Cloud Town, leaving the Ling and Cheng clans last. As expected, great clans will be great clans. They were always very generous with their gifts. As he had already gotten his hands on benefits, he naturally felt very pleased. He suddenly stood and said, "I am under command of our 7th elder and am currently trying to apprehend a murderer. If you know of anyone who has entered into the vicinity of Balance Mountain within the last month, Ling clan head, please do inform me. I will be remaining in this town for a few more days." "Of course," Ling Dongxing answered. He too stood up and said, "Let me see you off, young Master Ma." Ma Lang cheerfully nodded, putting himself in the role of imperial envoy, both hands placed behind his back, taking big strides. "Young Master Ma." And right at this moment, someone suddenly spoke. It was Ling Zhongquan. Ma Lang frowned, turning around and saying, "What is it?" I suddenly recalled that there is one member of the clan that had disappeared for about a month. Perhaps he had gone to Balance Mountain. Ling Zhongquan said, a cold smile playing about his lips. "Oh, who is it?" Ma Lang asked. "This person's name is Ling Han. He is the son of our clan head." Ling Zhongquan had been waiting for Ma Lang to ask him about it, and so his reply was quick. Hearing such words, all the members of the Ling clan started cursing Ling Zhongquan in their hearts. Putting aside the fact that Ling Han was now a ray of hope to the Ling clan and a strong pillar of support for the clan in the future, even if he was the trash he had once been, as long as his surname was Ling, you still can't help an outsider hurt your own clansman. And he wanted to become clan head with this kind of temperament. The future of the Ling clan would really become bleak if he succeeded. Ling Dongxing was naturally raging in his heart, and regretted that he had not tidied up the clan. Based on the fact that they all shared the same surname of Ling, he had not been ruthless, but he had never thought that Ling Zhongquan would actually be so heartless himself. Ma Lang turned to look at Ling Dongxing, and asked, "Ling clan head, was there such a matter?" Ling Dongxing's expression remained unchanged, as he said, "My son did leave on a training trip slightly over a month ago, but he had not gone to Balance Mountain." "Oh, then where had he gone?" Ma Lang narrowed his eyes. 7 Wind Mountains. Ling Han stepped out. "So you're Ling Han." Ma Lang turned his gaze to Ling Han. "I am Ling Han." Ling Han nodded. Ma Lang stared at Ling Han, a grim expression on his face, causing all those present to feel a chill that foretold of an upcoming storm. "Ha ha ha ha." He suddenly laughed, walked over and patted Ling Han's shoulder, saying, "Don't be so nervous, we're just here to ask around a bit. I still have to go to the Cheng clan residence, but I'll return for a visit. I think we will have many common topics to chat about." This young man really was very temperamental. Ling Han smiled faintly, and said, "Hope to see you again. Ling clan head, you don't have to see me off." Ma Lang gave a wave of his hands, and left together with his group of black-clad people. When his figure disappeared from sight, all those in the hall finally released the breath they had been holding. Somehow, without themselves realizing it, their bodies had been covered in a layer of cold sweat. This was a sign of how much pressure the presence of this young man had exerted on them. Poisonous snake. That's right, a poisonous snake. This young man was exactly like a poisonous snake. Anyone who shared the same space with him would be anxious to the point of perspiring. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 42. Schemes. After stepping out of the Ling clan residence, Ma Lang said to himself in a voice only he himself could hear, "That brat is in element gathering tier, and moreover, he's only 16 years old. A tiny little grey cloud town, and there is actually a martial artist that entered into element gathering tier below 20 years old. He either ate some kind of divine fruit, or obtained some kind of secret treasure. I'll have to go and ask around." To know about a person, it would actually be the fastest to find out from his enemy, because it was possible that your enemy may know more about you than you know about yourself. Ma Lang brought his people to the Cheng clan residence, and half an hour later, his face was all smiles, excitement filling his eyes. 2 months ago, that brat had still been a publicly acclaimed trash, yet all of a sudden, he erupted. According to news from the Ling clan, that brat had only been maintaining a low profile in the past, but however low-key he had been, how could it have been to the point that his betrothed would break the betrothal contract with him? Heng, the people of Grey Cloud Town cannot see clearly because they are closely involved. This brat had obviously gotten his hands on some kind of ultimate treasure, and that's why his cultivation has advanced so much in such a short period of time. How else would it have been possible for a trash with a 5 elements disarray spirit base to suddenly experience such an eruption in his cultivation that he has reached element gathering tier? And it was even to the point that even 9th Elder has been bluffed by this brat. Even such a trash could get from the 2nd layer of body refining tier and into element gathering tier within a short 2 months' time, then if I managed to make use of it. Ma Lang's heartbeat uncontrollably and rapidly increased. He was considered a genius existence within this generation of Stone Wolf sect. At the same time, he was also a disciple of 7th Elder, and based on power, was ranked within the top 3 disciples of Stone Wolf sect. The elders within the sect had all placed heavy hopes on his shoulders because he had a hope of breaking through to Gushing Spring tier. But if he progressed at a normal rate, that would only be possible at least 20 years later. Once I get my hands on that treasure, within 3 years, no, maybe even 1 year, I'd be able to break through to Gushing Spring tier. After all, I possess an Earth-grade medium-level spirit base. My natural talent overwhelms that trash by who knows how many times. However, the Ling clan's power is not weak either. I cannot act impulsively. Otherwise, if the Ling clan is driven to desperate action, they may even choose to destroy the treasure rather than hand it over to me. In that case, I will not be able to obtain that treasure then. Plus, if I create too much noise here, it might attract the attention of the stronger members of the sect. Then there would be no chance for me to get that treasure. Additionally, that brat seems to have some kind of relationship with 9th Elder. Although there is a big gap between the status of 9th Elder and Master, if he steps out, I still can't openly disobey him. So, this matter must be done subtly. That's right, I have quite a good relationship with Little Poison Lord, Yu Zheng. This person is skilled in the use of poisons, and has the nickname of Shadowless Poisonous Hands. If I make him give me a hand, I'd definitely be able to easily take Ling Han down. After I force him to hand over the secret treasure he has, I'll have Yu Zheng executed and announce to the public that he is the murderer of Hang Zan. As for the other members of the Ling clan, I'll have them all killed just in case, to avoid any possible information leaks. I'll immediately have someone send a letter to Little Poison Lord. I will remain here and pretend to befriend that brat while simultaneously inquiring about the origins of that secret treasure. Less than a month, and this secret treasure will belong to me. After Ma Lang arrived in Grey Cloud Town, he continued to hang around, and every few days, he would go to the Ling clan residence to have a drink and chat with Ling Han, as if he had hit it off with Ling Han at first sight. But on the other hand, the guy was extremely greedy, and kept finding excuses to get offerings from all the other minor clans. Intimidated by the might of Stone Wolf sect, as well as scared off by the law reinforcement team he had brought with him, he managed to succeed every time. It was almost a month since he first came, and there were angry complaints from all the clans of Grey Cloud Town. They wanted nothing more than to chase away this bloodsucker from their town. Yet Ling Han acted as if nothing was happening. He persisted in working hard at cultivating every day as he wanted to reach the peak period of the first layer of element gathering tier as soon as possible, so that he'd have enough assurance to enter into 7 Wind Mountains to search for the Earth Dragon Grass and return safely. During this month of hard work, he had almost reached the peak period of this layer. His 5 elements origin nuclei were also nearing their ultimate form. The speed of rotation could no longer be increased, not even by a little bit. Otherwise, he would immediately throw up blood. However, this rotation speed was still much faster than it had been in his last life, as the 5 nuclei had reached a perfect balance, and thus increased his capacity by quite a large amount. He had also concocted many different alchemical pills within this time period, including some medium-level return origin pills, as well as some antidote pills. This was the preparation work for dealing with the red-scaled dragon snake. He obtained the ingredients for these pills from Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. In exchange, he handed over some completed pills as payment, causing Zhu Hixin to be incomparably excited as these pills were concocted by a grandmaster, and thus had much research value. My current power level is equivalent to a normal martial artist in the 5th layer of element gathering tier, Ling Han thought, an expression of admiration appearing on his face. Immortal grade spirit base is immortal grade spirit base, all right. The owner had already obtained an absolutely advantageous position when fighting with an opponent of the same cultivation level. There was practically no chance of defeat. To take 1 month to fully cultivate a layer, this is much slower than what I had expected. However, it's still much faster than Yutong. Still, when compared with body refining tier, the natural advantage of immortal grade spirit base has decreased by a lot. If I take alchemical pills as well, then the rate can still be increased slightly, Ling Han thought. However, Grey Cloud Town was too small, so pills that could help a martial artist in element gathering tier speed up his cultivation rate were very rarely sold there. Even the ingredients for such pills were rare. Ko. A knock sounded on the door. Lu Yutong entered and said, Ma Lang is here again. Ling Han revealed a disdainful smile, and said, he must be thinking that I've obtained some kind of secret treasure, and that's why my cultivation progress is so rapid. He has tried to sniff out information from me quite a few times. Do you need me to send him away? Lu Yutong asked. She was in the 9th layer of element gathering tier and, furthermore, was close to reaching the peak period of the 9th layer. It would be as easy as turning over her hand to deal with a martial artist in the 4th layer of element gathering tier. No need. It seems like his patience is close to being completely exhausted. It's about time for him to lay his cards on the table. Ling Han shook his head. His eyes were bright. Ma Lang was in the peak period of the 4th layer of element gathering tier, and this would be a good opportunity for him to test out his own battle prowess. He walked towards the main hall with Lu Yutong in tow. Ling Dongxing was already seated within the main hall. Both Ling Zhongquan and his grandson were present too, though they were standing at one side, big smiles on their faces. Who knows what kind of poisonous thoughts they were entertaining. It is about time to completely dispose of Ling Zhongquan and his group, Ling Han thought. However, aside from Ma Lang, there was another young man dressed all in black. He looked like a living dead, for there was absolutely no expression on his face. Brother Ling, we haven't met for a few days, how have you been? Ma Lang stood, his eyes circling around Lu Yutong's beautiful, shapely figure, revealing some heat. Such an exceptional beauty caused even his heart to skip a beat. He swore that after he had killed Ling Han and obtained the secret treasure the latter had, he would definitely get his hands on this rare woman. Ling Han smiled faintly, and said, I am very well. While Ling Dongxing commanded someone to serve tea, Ma Lang enthusiastically offered Ling Han an invitation to visit Stone Wolf Sect for fun. As Ling Han raised the teacup, and lifted the cover of the cup, his expression instantly changed slightly. There was poison in the cup. He was an alchemist, and alchemists always have a very deep understanding of poisons and venoms, as some alchemical pills required certain poisonous ingredients in their concoction, fighting fire with fire. Pa. He waved out a palm, and his origin power created a tremor that instantly shattered the teacup Ling Dongxing had raised to his lips, the tea within it splattering in all directions. Hannah. Ling Dongxing was shocked. He had no idea what his son was doing. There's poison in the tea. Ling Han said. What? A severe expression flashed in Ling Dongxing's eyes. His first reaction was not to doubt his son's judgment, but to turn his glare towards Ling Zhongquan and his grandson. The only one present who had the motive as well as the ability to poison their tea would definitely be Ling Zhongquan. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 43. Poisoned. Instantly, Ling Zhongquan jumped up all of a sudden like a cat that had its tail stepped on him. While pointing at Ling Dongxing, he said, Ling Dongxing, what do you mean? Are you accusing me of trying to poison you? He could not control his anxiety as there were noble guests from the Stone Wolf sect present. What great, unforgivable crime was it to attempt to poison disciples of Stone Wolf sect? This kind of crime would definitely cause him to die 100 times. More importantly, he really didn't do such a thing. The old man had plotted many schemes throughout his life and had done quite a number of bad things, but it was still the first time that he had experienced being wrongly accused by someone else. In his fury, even his face had turned green. Ling Dongxing naturally knew that he himself did not place the poison, and Ma Lang had no reason to, so then the largest suspect could only be Ling Zhongquan. He humphed and said, "Ling Zhongquan, because we both are members of the Ling clan, I have always tolerated you, but this time, you've gone too far. If Ma Lang died here, he, as the clan head of the Ling clan, would not be able to escape responsibility." "It's not him." Ling Han shook his head. "Not him." Ling Dongxing's face was filled with surprise, while Ling Zhongquan had an expression of disbelief. He had never imagined that Ling Han would actually speak up on his behalf. Ling Han gave a smile, and said, "This pair of trashes wouldn't be able to concoct such a poison." This. Ling Zhongquan and Ling Muyun were furious. The reason why they were not suspected was because they were trash and did not have the ability to concoct such a poison. But when compared to being found guilty of the crime of attempting to poison a disciple of Stone Wolf sect, they still chose to remain silent. "So, then who's the culprit?" Ling Dongxing wore a puzzled expression. Ling Han glanced at Ma Lang, a smile unfolding on his face, and said, "Brother Ma, do you not intend to explain yourself?" "Explain what?" Ma Lang's face was filled with absolute confusion. Killing intent slowly revealed itself on Ling Dongxing's face. From Ling Han's words, this poison had actually been placed in their tea by Ma Lang. But the problem was, when had Ma Lang gotten the opportunity to poison their tea? The water in their tea came from their own well, the tea leaves also belonged to their own Ling clan, and the one who prepared the tea was also one of their own people. If this was known to others outside the clan, they would definitely die of laughter. You couldn't wrong a man like that. But as this was coming from his son's mouth, Ling Dongxing chose to believe it absolutely. This was the trust that a father had in his son. "Was it not you, Brother Ma, who had placed the poison?" Ling Han asked. Peng. Ma Lang suddenly slammed his hand on the table and stood up from his seat, furiously saying, "Ling Han, I take you as a friend, yet you wrong me in this way. What is your intention? You say I poisoned your tea. How did I do such a thing? This water, these tea leaves, the servant who prepared the tea all belong to your Ling clan, so when would I have the chance to do such a thing? Ling Han, you actually dared to slander a disciple of Stone Wolf sect. This is definitely unforgivable." Ling Zhongquan took the opportunity to immediately jump out and shout. Ma Lang's gaze turned to Ling Zhongquan, and he said, "Chief Butler Ling, I suspect this pair of father and son has murdered a fellow disciple of our sect, Hang Zan. Are you willing to assist me in their arrest?" Ling Zhongquan was immediately very pleased, and said, "I am willing to listen to young Master Ma's commands, and be of service to the Stone Wolf sect." "Very good. You will be responsible for subduing Ling Dongxing while I shall deal with this brat," Ma Lang said while directing a meaningful look at the young man in black. The young man in black nodded slightly, extended a hand into his sleeve and withdrew a jade bottle. He suddenly threw this bottle at the floor, and with a pooh sound, black fumes immediately dissipated everywhere, very rapidly spreading to all the corners of the main hall. Poisonous gas. Without waiting for anyone to remind them, everyone held their breaths to avoid breathing the gas in. It was definitely nothing good. "Ha ha ha ha, I never thought you could actually be so quick-witted." Ma Lang revealed a malevolent expression. "It's true, it was I who had poisoned the water in your well. I never thought you would be so alert. Fortunately, I had already prepared Plan B. Let me introduce someone to you. This is my good friend, Yu Zheng, who holds the nickname of Little Poison Lord. This is origin shattering powder. Once you breathe it in, it'll cause the origin power within your bodies to stagnate, and you'll become powerless. You won't even have the strength to remain standing." Ling Dongxing naturally felt great fury within his heart, but he could not even expel this anger in a loud rage, for the moment he opened his mouth, he would definitely inhale this origin-shattering powder, and that'd be the end. The worst thing was Ling Zhongquan was actually still continuing in his attacks on his person, obviously intending to obstruct him here. This old guy's desire to take the position of the clan head had already overwhelmed all his logical processes, and was already mad with it. Did he think that once he got rid of Ling Dongxing, he'd be able to finally take the seat of clan head? However, with the way that Ma Lang had shown how ruthless he could be, how was it possible that he would leave any member of the Ling clan alive? Old fool. Ling Han withdrew a pill bottle from his sleeve. He took out a medicinal pill from it, which he swallowed, then took out another, throwing it to Lu Yutong. He took out another, and said to Ling Dongxing, "Father, this pill has the effect of curing poison. It can easily deal with the poisonous effects of the origin-shattering powder." Lu Yutong naturally swallowed the pill she had received quickly. Ling Dongxing slammed a palm attack on Ling Zhongquan, and disengaged from the battle, rushing over. Ma Lang made no move to stop him. In his opinion, Ling Han's medicinal pill would be of absolutely no effect. The reason was, every lock had its own key, and every antidote naturally could only cure a specific poison. It was illogical to say that Ling Han had so coincidentally possessed an antidote on hand that could deal with the poison of origin-shattering powder. How could he believe such a thing? Ha ha, then let him believe that this pill would be able to cure their poison. At that moment, they would definitely open their mouths and breathe, thus inhaling the poisonous origin-shattering powder. Then, it would be too late for regrets. Ling Dongxing received the pill and swallowed it in one mouthful. He trusted his son without a doubt. After he had swallowed the pill, he immediately started breathing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to continue the battle for too long if he kept holding his breath. The young man in black revealed a mocking smile. He was actually considered half an alchemist, though he had not used his mental capacities on the concoction of alchemical pills. Instead, he mixed various kinds of poisons, researching various methods to use poison to kill. This origin-shattering powder was different from those low-grade products on the market. He had added a lot of other poisons to it. It not only had the effects of slowing down the circulation of origin power and disintegrating physical strength, it even had the effect of corroding one's internal organs, possessing a terrifying poison. If it was not poisonous, how could he be qualified for the name of Little Poison Lord? Unless it was the antidote that he himself had concocted, there really was no cure for it. Ma Lang too did not rush. After all, Ling Dongxing was still in the peak period of the 9th layer of element gathering tier and possessed tremendous battle strength. It was too foolish to fight with him head-on. As long as he waited for a while longer, Ling Dongxing would be defeated even without a battle. As the saying goes, a cornered dog will jump over the wall. He had absolutely no intention of entering a life and death struggle with the man. Meanwhile, Ling Dongxing was deeply frowning. Now what? Ma Lang could behave in this deranged manner, but could the Ling clan bear the risk? Killing a disciple of Stone Wolf sect, who moreover was in the role of imperial envoy, this was a huge crime that could lead to the Ling clan's utter destruction. There is nothing to ponder too much about. We are not fish on the chopping board, lying there waiting for others to chop us up. Ling Han was much more decisive, as he did not have as much apprehension as Ling Dongxing. Additionally, he also knew how many trump cards he could make use of. Chen Feng Lai, Zhu He Xin, as well as the Lu clan of the imperial city that was behind Lu Yutong. Ling Dongxing too quickly made his decision. He did not possess an indecisive character, and his killing intent immediately surfaced. Meanwhile, Ma Lang and Yu Zheng both assumed a very strange expression, wondering why was it that Ling Dongxing and the rest had not yet revealed the symptoms of succumbing to the poison. After all, they should already manifest by now. Could it be that the pill that they had taken earlier had really cured their poison? Ah! At this moment, Ling Zhongquan screamed in agony, suddenly falling to the ground. His four limbs were twitching and his face was twisting. He was obviously in unbearable agony. Ling Muyun was in the same condition. He too had collapsed on the ground in uncontrollable spasms. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 44. Battling Ma Lang. An antidote. Ling Zhongquan moaned. This origin-shattering powder not only disintegrated his origin power, it also weakened him. It also had extremely powerful poisonous effects, corroding his internal organs and causing him to moan in excruciating agony. Who knew if he was saying these words to Ling Han or Ma Lang, or perhaps he could be saying it to both of them. But Ling Yun could no longer say a word, and could only create a KKK sound with his throat. His whole body was covered in cold sweat. The agony he was feeling had to be beyond description. Ma Lang and Yu Zheng did not spare these two men any attention. They only kept staring at Ling Han in shock. Obviously, this brat's pill really had the ability to cure their poison. But the question was, how could there be such a coincidence in this world that his pill would so coincidentally be an antidote to the origin-shattering powder? Or did that mean the pill this brat had contained the ability to cure multiple types of poisons? You reap what you sow. Ling Han humphed coldly, without any slightest bit of mercy. He turned towards Ma Lang and said, "Father, how about you deal with that whatever, little poison lord, while I handle this guy?" "Are you sure?" Ling Dongxing was slightly worried. After all, Ma Lang was in the 6th layer of element gathering tier, and thus much stronger than his son, who had just entered the element gathering tier. "Don't worry, father," Ling Han put on a confident smile. "Heng, where is the law enforcement team?" Ma Lang gave a loud shout. As things had already proceeded to this step, he could only use force. Shua shua shua, more than 10 people dressed in black flew in from outside the main hall, each and every one of them exuding a powerful killing intent. "Aside from this brat and that woman, execute all the others," Ma Lang said loudly. He knew that Ling Dongxing was in the 9th layer of element gathering tier and possessed tremendous battle strength. However, he possessed the advantage in numbers, so there was still a chance of emerging victorious. "Understood," all the black-clad people answered coldly. They drew their respective weapons and aimed them at Ling Dongxing. Ling Dongxing did not feel any fear. He was in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, so how could he be overwhelmed by a few low-layer element gathering tier martial artists whose only advantage was in numbers? He gave a long hiss and charged towards the black-uniformed group. Ma Lang did not interfere. Instead, he started to circle around Ling Han and said, "I have to admit that you surprised me by actually having a pill that could cure the poison especially concocted by Little Poison Lord. I think you must have gotten your hands on an ancient treasure trove, one that not only contained valuable pills that could help a martial artist increase his cultivation rate greatly, but also high-level medicinal pills that could cure all poisons. Otherwise, your cultivation level would not have progressed so quickly. You wouldn't have been able to be completely unscathed either under the influence of the origin-shattering powder. However, all this now belongs to me." He turned a gaze overflowing with greed at Ling Han. But Ling Han only responded with a smile, and said, "The only thing you can get is death." "Damn you," Ma Lang cursed, and threw himself at Ling Han. He wanted to subdue Ling Han in order to force Ling Dongxing to surrender. Ling Han was naturally unafraid. With a ding, he drew his sword from the scabbard. Then, he threw the scabbard to the side and raised his sword in a slash, displaying sword chi. "What? Sword chi?" Ma Lang gasped in shock. He immediately retreated, and could not help the deep frown crossing his brow. He looked at Ling Han, and said, "I never thought that you would have actually managed to form sword chi. You were initially a trash, yet now you have even managed to form sword chi. I am now really more and more expectant. The treasure trove that you had obtained must be of absolutely astonishing value. Now, I need to display some of my true abilities." He withdrew a bent saber from his waist, brandished it a few times, and actually displayed a flash of saber chi too. He revealed an arrogant expression, "You're not the only one who can form chi. Those who could form chi had the right to be proud of themselves." Ling Han shook his head, and said impatiently, "How long are you intending to keep chattering for? Heng, you will regret saying these words." Ma Lang threw himself up, the bent saber in his hand drawn. Ziu ziu, a flash of saber chi danced. It seemed as if he had struck twice in one instant. Together with the power he had as a martial artist in the 6th layer of element gathering tier, the power behind his blows was truly terrifying. Lu Yutong could not help her hands clenching into fists, revealing an anxious expression. She knew that Ling Han was very powerful, but Ma Lang was not Hang Zan. Ma Lang was in the 6th layer of element gathering tier, which was 5 whole layers above Ling Han. In her opinion, this gap was not something that could be compensated by martial arts techniques or experience. But Ling Han looked so confident that she could not bear to stop him. She could only worry from the side, wanting nothing more than to fight in his place. Ling Han gave a humph. His long sword once again slashed and 2 flashes of sword chi rolled out. 2 flashes of sword chi. Ma Lang's eyes were about to pop out of his skull at this. What kind of terrifying comprehension level was this? But he immediately snorted coldly in his heart. So what if Ling Han could form 2 flashes of sword chi? He was a martial artist in the 6th layer of element gathering tier and possessed an overwhelming power advantage. This was definitely not something an additional flash of sword chi could overcome. The saber he had raised did not change in position, and mercilessly struck down on Ling Han. Ting! The saber and the sword clashed, suddenly producing fiery sparks due to the friction between the 2 blades. Sword chi and saber chi clashed as well, but they cancelled each other out. However, there was still an additional flash of sword chi that continued on its path towards Ma Lang. Pooh! Pooh! Blood blossomed suddenly on Ma Lang's chest. He stumbled backwards, his face filled with disbelief. You have just entered into element gathering tier, but how is it possible that you have such tremendous power? He gasped in shock. When their blows clashed, he managed to estimate that his opponent's power belonged to someone in about the 5th layer of element gathering tier. To get from the 2nd layer of body refining tier to the 5th layer of element gathering tier in a short 2 months. This was something that Ma Lang could not accept in the slightest. Because I am a genius. Ling Han brandished his sword, continuing his attack. Ma Lang gritted his teeth. The word, genius, was something that he frequently used, and now it was snatched by someone else. He was naturally very displeased at this. Yet his opponent, at the mere age of 16, had already managed to break through to element gathering tier, and even succeeded in forming 2 flashes of sword chi. Ling Han really did deserve the name of genius. Damn it. He did not believe in the slightest that a piece of trash had suddenly attained enlightenment. It must be because Ling Han had obtained that mysterious treasure trove that allowed an idiot to become a genius. This caused his desire to obtain it for himself to soar even higher. This is mine, mine. His eyes had turned red, jealousy turning him mad. Ziu! He pounced with his bent saber slashing out, and a bright flash of blood red flickered. Scarlet trained kill, he shouted loudly. This was his ultimate technique and was also one of the secret techniques of Stone Wolf sect that could never be taught to others. It was a high-level yellow-grade technique. If he had not been the favorite disciple of 7th Elder, he would never have been taught this saber technique while he was still in element gathering tier, as this was a secret technique that could only be used by the elders in Stone Wolf sect. High-level yellow-grade martial arts techniques were the best secret techniques they had, and according to rumors, only the sect master had the right to cultivate their one and only black-grade martial arts technique. Stone Wolf Claws, a low-level black-grade martial arts technique. It was also the origin of the Stone Wolf sect's name. The saber's light was bittingly cold, and the flash of saber chi, as well as the real saber, had become crimson and struck towards Ling Han from 2 different directions. Ling Han drew his sword, and used the shocking electricity sword arts. The 2 flashes of sword chi danced together, and were not the slightest bit less grand. Against a mere Ma Lang, he still did not need to put in all his effort and use all 4 flashes of sword chi. Ting 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 ting, the saber and sword clashed repeatedly. The power advantage Ling Han had with the additional flash of sword chi was very obvious. Every time they exchanged blows, Ma Lang would definitely be struck by a flash of sword chi, causing wounds to continuously appear on his body. Ma Lang was both astonished and alarmed. If things continued this way, Ling Han would slowly wear him down. Yu Zheng, help me! He shouted loudly. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 45. Kill them all. Brother Ma, you asked me to help you place the poison, and I've already done so. Helping you deal with this brat does not seem to be a part of our agreement, Yu Zheng said slowly, as if he had not seen that Ma Lang was suffering. Ma Lang knew that Yu Zheng was also a greedy man. He was no longer interested in the benefits he had promised him previously. Though he was reluctant, he could only say, this brat must have discovered some kind of ancient secret trove to be able to progress from the 2nd layer of body refining tier to element gathering tier within a short 2 months. He has even managed to form 2 flashes of sword chi. Just think, how very valuable would this treasure trove be? Let us join forces to force this brat to reveal this treasure trove, and we'll split the contents between the both of us equally. Our future prospects would be beyond measure. Yu Zheng had only known that Ling Han was an extraordinary young man, but he had never imagined that this guy had been so weak in the past. With such a colossal discrepancy between his past and present, it could only be explained by the fact that he had obtained some kind of ancient treasure trove. Even a piece of trash could obtain such a complete transformation, then what if it was he who had obtained this kind of treasure trove? His breathing became harsh, and killing intent revealed itself in his eyes. His killing intent was even directed towards Ma Lang as well. As long as he managed to obtain that treasure trove from Ling Han, he would definitely kill Ma Lang to keep things quiet. Very well, I shall help you. As he said so, he removed the bundle he had been carrying on his back. From within he withdrew 2 daggers. There was a greenish light flickering from the sharp blades of the daggers. They had been dipped in powerful poison. Yu Tong, get rid of him, Ling Han said casually. Understood, Lu Yutong replied. Ziu, her figure flew forwards, making her seem like a descending deity. Too fast. In a flash, she had already appeared behind Yu Zheng. Her right hand forced his hand up, and Yu Zheng could not control the brandishing of the dagger he had been holding, which drew against his throat. Pooh. Blood splattered, and Yu Zheng stumbled back. He used one hand to press onto the wound on his throat as the other frantically searched through his sleeve for the antidote. But his face quickly turned black, and when he finally drew out a jade bottle from his sleeve, his eyes had already lost all signs of life. Peng. He collapsed with his head raised. Till his final moment, he still could not manage to believe that he would actually die here, and furthermore, that such a divinely beautiful, cold as ice maiden would actually have such great power that he had not even managed to display a single technique before death. Ma Lang was extremely shocked as well. He too had not imagined that Lu Yutong would be so powerful, and even be able to instantly kill Yu Zheng, a martial artist in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, in one move. Such a genius, why was she willing to lower herself to stay by Ling Han's side? You still dare to be distracted at such a time, are you complaining that death is not coming fast enough? Ling Han smiled coldly, and brandished his sword in a killing move. Ma Lang raised his saber to parry in panic, yet was still forced to retreat about 7 or 8 steps by the shockwave from this move. Another wound appeared on his body. Let me see you off. Ling Han brandished his sword once again, like a rainbow piercing through the day, presenting a dazzling image. N. Day or sun, quite ambiguous, day is more likely though. This was the strongest move of shocking electricity sword arts, named Flash Strike. Ma Lang gritted his teeth and raised his saber in a parry. But the saber missed, and with a pooh, he only managed to feel a sharp pain in his chest. His heart had been pierced through by the long sword, and the terrifying shockwave generated by this attack immediately exploded his heart. Martial artists in the element gathering tier had a strong vitality. Even though his heart had been exploded, he was not completely dead yet. He kept staring at Ling Han, and his mouth opened and closed a few times, as if wanting to say something, yet he did not manage to produce any sound at all. After such a long battle, how could it be that I have not managed to see through your moves? Ling Han knew what Ma Lang wanted to ask, and replied calmly. You're a damn monster, we've only battled just a short while, and you've actually seen through my moves. Ma Lang was spitting out curses in his heart, and he finally breathed his last, unwillingly closing his eyes in death. Ling Han withdrew his sword, and glanced over the scene. Ling Dongxing had dealt with majority of the law enforcers, and even if any of them were so fortunate as to get away from him, Lu Yutong would immediately deal with these leftovers. Meanwhile, Ling Zhongquan and his grandson, Ling Muyun, had also died under the powerful effects of the poison. Their eyes were fixed in a stare, filled with a powerful rage, though who knew who was it they hated the most, Ma Lang and Yu Zheng or Ling Dongxing and his son. These two traitors, they've gotten off lightly. Ling Han humphed. He had initially intended to kill the two of them himself. It's fine, they are, after all, clansmen of the Ling clan. Dying in the hands of outsiders is good, Ling Dongxing only sighed. He was, after all, the clan head, and so there were many more things he needed to consider. They naturally need not deal with the bodies themselves. However, killing someone was easy, but dealing with the aftermath, Ling Dongxing had a bit of a headache at this. Hannah, you and Yutong must immediately leave. Go as far away as you can. Ling Dongxing had decided. He could remain behind and die with the Ling clan, but his son was the hope of the clan. At the very least, he needed to ensure that Ling Han remained safe. Ling Han smiled, and said, Father, I had not done this act out of impulsiveness. We can let Chen Fenglai deal with this issue. So many people have died, and there's even a disciple of seventh elder. Can he really solve the issue? Ling Dongxing asked, frowning. For the sake of his own life, he would definitely do all he can. Ling Han laughed. Moreover, Yutong is the princess of the Lu clan, one of the 8 great clans of the imperial city. If worst comes to worst, we can reveal her identity. Yet Ling Dongxing still shook his head. He naturally thought of his son as the best young man in the whole world, but would the Lu clan think the same? When he recalled that his own wife was also the great-granddaughter of the 3rd elder of Winter Moon sect, yet in the end, their conclusion was tragic, there was already a previous example. Still, though really a real father and son, even the women they got to know were of such high, noble status. He could not help feeling a little worried. As a father, he did not hope in the slightest for Ling Han to follow in his footsteps. Right. Yutong. Ling Han had never been a father, so he would not be able to understand Ling Dongxing's current thoughts. He saw how Ling Dongxing still looked very worried, and misunderstood his father was still worrying about the issue of Stone Wolf sect, so he asked Lu Yutong for assurance. Lu Yutong nodded, her expression extremely solemn. When Ling Dongxing saw this, as someone who has had previous experience, how could he not be able to tell that Lu Yutong had already developed feelings for his son? Hopefully this will not be another pair of star-crossed lovers. No, this will definitely not be an ill-fated romance. His son was better than him by 100, 1,000 times, and in the future, he'd definitely be able to exceed the limitations of martial arts of Rain Country. So what would be inappropriate in marrying the daughter of one of the 8 great clans? Ling Han immediately wrote a missive, and had a messenger deliver it at full speed to Stone Wolf sect, addressed to Chen Fenglai. If Chen Fenglai was unable to deal with this matter, then he actually had an alternative solution, and that was Zhu Hixin. Zhu Hixin was a low-level black-grade alchemist. Although he did not have a very high opinion of him, but within Rain Country, Zhu Hixin possessed quite a high status. At least he was someone that the Stone Wolf sect definitely did not dare to trifle with. Lu Yutong was his little female attendant. It would be very embarrassing to be forced to make use of her background. Chen Fenglai received the letter on the 3rd day. When he had finished reading the contents of the letter, he had almost been shocked to the point of heart attack, thinking how was it that this young master could be such a troublemaker. He had just killed off one Cheng Xuanhuan, and now he's also killed Ma Lang in a whole law enforcement team. Cheng Xuanhuan was fine. He was Chen Fenglai's disciple, and so what if he's dead? It's fine as long as Chen Fenglai did not intend to pursue matters. But Ma Lang was old 7th's disciple, and was also the most excellent one of them. How could he bury this pit? But he had no choice but to do it, for his life was tied to Ling Han. Ling Han did not know how Chen Fenglai had dealt with the issue. He only knew that 2 days later, the latter replied to his message and said that there was no longer any need to worry about anything. Since this matter was already resolved, Ling Han decided to enter 7 Wind Mountains. There was still 1 month before the end of the year, and he needed to achieve at least the 4th layer of element gathering tier to have a chance to compete for the first place in the Da Yuan tournament.